Mesechta Zevachim, Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph, starting from the second line from the top, starting from Chutz Min Adam, the second line from the top. Yeah, you can come join, Rabbi Sarata. Okay, you ready? Chutz Min Adam. Okay, Chutz Min Adam, we learned that you're not going to be chayv on Achilas Dam if it's noisar, or if you're tummy and you eat the dam, you're not going to be chayv for it. Dam.
This is from no matter if you're not here.
We said by the other ones like koimets,
Right.
those things that are not davasheish lematinim and don't have the din of pigul, but the isa of neisas by say the isa al satame essen, the koimets is there's a isa. But by dam, even though it's not a davasheish lematim, there's nothing that is matit. Nevertheless, there's no isa. There's not going to be the isa if his dam that was from noisar. If he ate the dam from Noisa, he's not going to be chayv mitzad Noisa. Or if he ate the Baal's when he was tummy. What?
What about eating dam?
We're talking about he eats dam which is Noisa. Dam that was left there. For the dam, yeah, that is always remains. That the Torah says. Dam hanefeshu. From where do we know that there's no iser of eating dam, which is noisa, or being tameh and eating the dam? How do we know there's no isa? So Ula said, there's a passage by dam karbanis. It says, "Vani nesativ lochem." I have given to you al mizbeach to place the blood on the mizbeach lechapin that it should forgive for you. So the word lachem is mafshe shalachem yeh, that the carbon, meaning that it has this dam of the carbon has a din like dam of chulin that belongs mamish personally to you, meaning that if you had a no from the dam, you're not going to be chai for me'ilah. There's no din me'ilah. So from where do we know that there's no din me'ilah if you have a no from it? Because by the dam hakabanis you have the extra word in that same pasuk lechaper. Lechaper. So what does it mean? Lechaparin is sat me'ilah. He says that the Hashem considered the dam only as so helpful that it's only help for kapara for kapara. Yep. To have enough from it, there's no din kachim in that. Rabbi Yichnama Amakra, he has a third limud. He learns from a different third place. Ki hadam hu ba nefesh yichapa. The word hu is extra. Hu lefnei kapara kilacha kapara. That lefnei kapara, the dam, even though it's kaddish because you didn't do the mitzvah yet, it will have a din like after you finish the mitzvah, once it was mechapa, where there's no isa of dam, there's no me'ilah, it's no kachin, it's not considered. Huh? Yeah, valachin yikam the kapara is the dam, not kachin. Everybody's learning. It's either from who or from the word lechapa or from lechem. It depends who you're talking about. Ula says from lechem. Who that lefnei, it's whole, the same that havayas adam, havoyas adam, the being of the dam is one before the giving of the blood, before the spraying of the blood, and it's the same din for just like after the giving of blood. No. He's going to show you that it's going to sound okay because he's going to ask, why don't we say the reverse? 1 second. Just like after the kapara, there's no din me'ilah. So too, before the kapara, it doesn't have a din me'ilah. In fact, who says to compare before the spraying of the blood to after? Maybe you should compare. So use the hu, the reverse. That la'acha kapara should have a din me'ilah just like before the kapara. Eima kilifnei kapara. Ma lifnei kapara yeshmi la'acha. Say eima. Say la'acha kapara kilifnei kapara. Say after the kapara, it should have a din of me'ilah like before the kapara. Ma lifnei kapara yeshmi me'ilah. La'acha kapara yeshmi me'ilah. So say it has a din me'ilah. There's no concept. You won't find me in the Torah that once the mitzvah is finished, that there should be a isa from kachim, and if you have a no, it's me'ilah. No such a thing. Once the kapara was done, everything becomes chulin. Show me where. Says really? I'll show you where. He says, it says they took off the trumas hadeshen from the mizbeach. They shoveled the ash. He went down the ramp. He went right on the side of the ramp, and he put it on the floor, and somehow the floor like swallowed all the ash. It says nobody was allowed to move that ash once the kohen did the mitzvah of Trumas Hadeshin, Aromas Hadeshin, and he placed it on the side of his bike.
Ash, right?
Ash, yeah. Once he placed it, you weren't allowed to touch it. If you had a noah, it's mamish kachin. It was
What do we
Isa.
do with the ash? You just
Take it off the mizbeach to empty it out, and you put it on the side. And the Eibishter made a miracle of swallowing the ground.
automatically.
Yeah, I
But
think.
you have to make room on the Mizbeach for further carbonates. You have to get rid of the
Right, from the mizbeach. But what happened? What happened when once they put it on the side? It says that the ground swallowed it. Here, I'll show you. It says v'shomoi. Okay, she'ena ifanitim lehasor mimakim anachas el chayam lashirei sham. You have to leave it on the side of the mizbeach at sheyivla bekarka till the karka swallows it. It was mamish a miracle that happened every day.
There was
Okay.
somewhere that part of it was swallowed and part of it they took out. I think I remember hearing that.
Here he says the whole thing was swallowed. Whatever you put it from the Trumas Hadesh on the side, you put it. There was a certain place on the side of the ramp,
Right.
and the floor would swallow
But
it.
we know that the Kohanim also took much of the ashes outside of the.
That's all. Only you're right. I hear you. Only the ashes of the carbon. Correct. Right. He's going to say it. Oh, he's going to say it later.
Also the ashes from the wood, right?
Right. He's not referring to that. Oh, anything that was used for the carbon. In fact, you want to. So you see, there is. What do you tell me? It's not shaykh to say. Your whole answer. I can't compare after the kapara to lefnei kapara that there should be a dimila. No such concept. You said. So there is such a concept by Trumas Hadeshin. Says you're right. But the problem is, Mishum Dahavi Trumas Hadeshin Big the Kuna, we have two places. And once you have two places telling you the same thing, Ein Melamna, you cannot learn it out for all over. That means all other places in the Torah, there's no Mi'ila. What is the Mi'ila by Big the Kuna? Once the Kohen Gadol would be begotten for Yom Kippur, the vice begotten, the Big Day Lavan, once he finished Yom Kippur, he has to fold it up and give it away. I mean, it has to go to the garbage. You can't use it. It has to go Ligniza. It has to be hidden.
So it's shameless.
Shemus. Yeah, mamish is shemus. Says the Gemara snakes him up and kachad. So you have two.
The golden and the white?
No, just the white. The golden is no. Says the Gemara snakes him up and kachad. No.
That's what,
Yeah.
$2,000?
The cheats? Why are you kidding? Oof. Snakes him up and kachad. The two psukim teaching the same thing. Chol snakes him up and kachad. Ain't allowed. Once you have two telling me the same din.
What does it say by
That by side by Trumas Hadeshin, the halacha is there is a dimeila, even though the carbon was finished, and now you're just taking the ash and you're putting it on the side. You're not allowed to have a no.
What's the pasuk? What's the
What by? It says over there, Shamu, Ufasha is big. Which one by the begodim?
Either one. Then.
Okay, Ufasha is big. The abad Ashalova is bebay ala kodesh, v'hinicham sham.
Okay.
So hinicham sham elam shalezu bevat shein koyin gadol yachal lobus esavek godim ahei babis yemek b'shoshon achares elav to unem gniza, like you said, like shemes. You want to know the other pasuk? It says v'shamu. I saw before v'shamu el eitzalam is v'samu. I'm sorry, v'samu eitzalam is beyach. So the extra vav, you could have said v'samai. The Gemara is going to say comes to teach you that you're not allowed to touch it. Okay. But that's Shnei Ksulim. Shnei Ksulim Abayim Kechad, Ein Malamnim. So therefore, we couldn't learn the from Acha Kapara should have a din of Mila. It's only two places. In fact, the man had Nichli Abad and Amri, Vehinichem Sham Elam Tun Geniza. I understand only according to Mandi Amr ben the gate for the white begotten. He learns out from this that it says Vehinichem Sham that you need Geniza. El Rabbi Day said the Omar. That the big day Kohen Gadol of Yom Kippur Matoris and Lekohen Hedget, and he doesn't learn out from Menichem Sham that you have to put in Geniza. He says Kohen Hedget is allowed to use those white begotten
What is he using?
for whatever he wants. And the rest of the year, those four begotten were white.
Those they kept the year.
That's
year
only
to
for the
year.
Kohen Gadol.
Year
Yeah,
to year.
yeah,
After you finish your work, you still could use it.
yeah. A Kohen Hedget is allowed. The only thing that was excluded that you weren't allowed, the Kohen Gadol cannot wear it a second time to do the Aveda Yom Kippur.
But he needs new clothes.
But he needs new ones. But a Kohen Hedget can use it for the regular Aveda, the day-to-day Aveda, all year. So Ma'ikal Meima, so there's no, you're allowed to have, you see, even once it's finished, it's Kodesh, right? It's not Ba'beim Din Meila, and there's no Din Meila, you can have Anah. It was finished, and you could have Anah. So you said once the mitzvah, The begadim did not become us, so it's only one case. It's not shnei ksuvim. So if it's one case teaches you for all. There's
So
not
it
a
could be
problem.
also with Acha,
So yeah, even lacha kapara, you could have. It won't be over on Ismaila. I mean, it would be over on Ismaila because you have this by Tumas Hadeshin, and it's the only pasuk. Big day loving is nothing. But, right? Says the Gemara. Anyway, we still have two. Mishum Davi Tumas Hadeshin, which we said before. You could have a no. That's one, but which one is the second one? The Egla Arufa. What would they do by the Egla Arufa? If they found a dead body, the Sanhedrin would measure which city is the closest, then take a calf and knock off its neck. So if you had
What
it,
do you do with the hand? Where do you put it?
oh, so are you allowed to have a no? No, you weren't allowed to have a no. So he says by the Egla Arufa, so you are allowed to have a no by the Egla Arufa once they knocked off the neck. So you have two psukim. I'm sorry, you're not allowed. Once the mitzvah was done, Egla Arufa was asur.
So they didn't
It's
shag-
a-
they didn't
so
even
you
shag-
had to-
They didn't even shag them.
No, they knocked off its neck, but if they measured and
They
they,
are.
oh no, but he says,
They owned it to people.
okay, the Gabi it says Vafel Sham Sagos Sham Hamiyuteres teaches us Laman Sham to Hake Fudasa, claim she tunik Fudabasurabana. So you see, it was Asabahana, even after the mitzvah was done. Okay, Egla Arufa was Asabahana, just like Tumas Hadeshin. So you have two psukim telling you the same thing. So we're back to.
But according to the other man, the Yoma, you have 3 psukim now, right?
Okay, 1 minute. Let's take one at a time. So,
The
you,
first one, the first-
so they try to slug up which one? Ve'inicham sham. That by the beginning you're allowed to use. So they got rid of that
I
one.
can't hedge it.
By Akin Hedge you can use it. Those were the two. So according to that Mandama, right? According to Mandama, you're allowed to use it. So that's not two psukim. Says you want to know it's still two psukim because you have Egla Arufa after it was finished the mitzvah. It was asbana. So you have Kol Shnei Ksum Habayim Keachod Eim Alamnim. So that means all over there won't be the Meila only by
According
these
to
two
the first man, the
cases.
Yoma that said that the Eim Alam,
There would
the
be
first
3
two.
cases.
So you have
Yeah,
three.
yeah.
So
But
three
we're
was
talking about
separate.
according to the Mandama. We have to say the Kuliyama.
So he says that if there's 3 psukim also Eim Alam, then?
Yeah, sure.
Pretty sure.
Why not? Because for each place you need a pasuk. It says.
Okay.
So the Gemara, "Hanich l'mandama ein melamdim." But this is only good according to the mandama that says ein melamdim. L'mandama melamdim. Remember, we had a mandama that says it's no proof because the Torah said in 2 places. Because sometimes the Torah would rather specify that it's asbana than learn it out from a kal v'cheva.
From Mamatzino.
Like or mamatzina, like you have it says the gaba kal v'cheva shetorcha Torah lichlichte befedish. We have this rule. According to this man, he says, doesn't mean Eim Alamdim. Why did Torah write it a second time? Because the Torah would rather write a befedish, it's only one man, rather write a befedish than learn it out with a kavachema. So we have, so what are we going to say about that man, that Melamdim? So why can't we learn out Lacha Kapara from Lefnei Kapara Shabi Ismaila? And the one very simple. Trei miutik sibe. Those 2 psukim that you brought me, the special miutim, special yuturim to be memayit, that they is asbana. Normally it's mutabana. They need a special pasuk to tell you that after the mitzvah is going to still be asbana.
So you have that by
By Egla Arufa, what's the? It says. And it says also by Trumas Hadeshin, extra word. Where by the Egla Arufa it says Egla Ha'arufa Beheya Yediyah. The Heya Yediyah is coming to tell you Dafka this one. You're not allowed to have a no after the mitzvah was performed. But any other mitzvah is mutter. It's not. There's no ismaila. The Hasam by Trumas Hadeshin it says Ksiv V'Sam Moi. What's the? It should have said V'Sam. What's the vav? V'Sam Moi. The extra vav comes to tell us only by Trumas Hadeshin after you finished shoveling the ash and putting on the side, you're not allowed to have a no. And Egla Arufa. So each one had its pasuk to be memayit. That means, in order, normally it's mutaba no once the mitzvah is over. If you want to say it's also, you need a special pasuk. By Egla Arufa, you had the special pasuk ho Arufa the hay. by the Trumas Hadash, and you had V'samu with above. It could have said V'sam.
Even if it was done in the mitzvah, we see there's an isser.
We're only by these two cases.
In general, we see by Noiser, there's such a thing that if you finish with the mitzvah and say blight ibla, you still have to
Okay, that's a special. The Torah specified.
special.
So the Torah has specified that. But if anywhere where the Torah doesn't, it should be mutter. Why do I need the 3 mandamim? You remember that to say we learn out that there's a iser. That there's isa meila. I'm sorry, that there's no isa meila. That there's no isa meila. One said once the mitzvah was performed, it says the dam yehei lochem. We learn it's yours. It's no more kachim. One said we learned it out from the pasuk lichaper. It's only for kapara, but no isa meila. And a third one said it says who that we learn out that the lefnei kapara shabbat didn't like lacha kapara, which is mutabana. Says what do we need 3 psukim? Says Gemara, each one is adding another isa. And here's the punchline from where we know that there's no isa of noisa by dam or tuma, because these 3 psukim represent 3 different isurim in dam. The first pasuk that we had lachem is mim'ila, lemiyuti mim'ila. Lachem came to exclude that there's no isa me'ila. Lechaper came to exclude minoisa, that there's no isa of noisa. And the Vahu came to exclude umituma, there's no isa of tuma. So you know there's no isa of noisa and tuma by dam. Aval pigul, l'chayra by pigul, why didn't I need many psukim? It says, Av pigul loy tzarich. I don't need a special pasuk to exclude dam for the chiyuv of pigul. L'chayra, for each one you had. For Meila you had a pasuk. For Naisa you had a pasuk. For Tuma you had a pasuk. Why don't you have a pasuk from pigul by dam? So he says, because the time we learned before in the Mishnah, there's a rule. Kol davar sheyesh l'matirim bein l'adam bein l'zeh chayam l'adam mishum pigul v'dam gufim matu. He says we learned in the Mishnah only what kind of items could become pigul, only if it's something that depended on another thing to be matir. But dam is matir something else, but it itself has nothing to be matir. So it follows the rule. You don't need a pasuk. That's one of the rules.
So what kind of pickle could you have by dam to say I want to spritz the dam
tomorrow? Sure. Very good. He said the exact case. Yes. Why do I need 3? Why does the pasuk say 3 times? So the first pasuk it says Kol asher yikav ela hakadosh v'tumase alav. It doesn't say which carbon. It says anything that's kodesh. Second pasuk says v'nefesh asher teichel basam mizevach hashlamim, and it says v'nichsa nefesh ahi me'amel. Here you have all the psukim right here, each one on the side. And the third pasuk, or you want it explicitly with nekudes, you have it in the Hebrew AB. Here, the end of this page, you have the Hebrew of each pasuk. And the last one is v'nichlisa. It says 3 times v'nichlisa. Why? Achas, one of the psukim where it says v'nichlisa is talking about eating the shlam betuma, which is leklal. To use, you're using one v'nichlisa as a klal. That includes all kachim. There it doesn't say shlamim. The first pasuk, all it says, kol aish asher yikav el hakodoshim. It says kodoshim. So there it's a klal. He's not referring to specifically shlamim. To all karbanis. If you eat a betuma, you chayv kares. Then you have a second pasuk, the achas, that second nichlisa leprat, as a prat, because in the second pasuk, when it says v'nichlisa, it mentions shlamim. It mentions dafke shlamim. So you have 2 psukim. One is a klal. It says kadoshim, general, all karbanis. The second pasuk says shlamim, which is a prat. So that we should dash and dava shahaya bechlal. Shlamim was in the chlal. The yotzem in that chlal that they wrote in prat in the Torah. They took it out of the chlal. Loyle lamed al atzma yotze. He's not come to teach you about itself. Lamed al akal kula yotze. That what? That kodem shlamim, all the kabbanis that you say that you're going to be chayiv achila betuma, chayiv kares, has to be similar to shlamim. The achas and the last one, the third one, third v'kares l'devarim shein and lecholim, to tell you to include even if it's something that's not roy to eat, and you ate a betuma, you're going to be chayiv kares. Like a carbon of eitzim, somebody brings a carbon of eitzim and gibisin us, and he bit a betuma, he's still going to be chayiv kares. That's what the third one. According to Reb Shimon, how could the third Nichus tell you that you're chayiv? He says you're not chayiv if it's something that's not a derech to eat. Reb Shimon said beferish in the Mishnah you're not chayiv. So what's the third Bekar is coming to teach us? Li'isuya mai says you want li'isuya chatois pnimis. Salke that I would have said Reb Shimon kel she'ika kaparas ein alam is beichachis kishlamim. I would have thought when you compare to shlamim all the kapanes, it has to be similar to the ikar of kapan shlamim. What's the ikar of kapan shlamim? The spraying the blood. Where's the spray of the blood? So he's coming to. But what about the pahelim dava? All those chatos apnimim. Where were they sprayed in the heichal? So I would say, ein chayav malav nishum pigel. So only which ones? Kol she'inei alam zbeicha chitzin kishlamim ein chayav malav nishum pigel. Anything that's not like the shlamim that the blood was sprayed inside in the heichal, I'm sorry, outside by the mizbeach hachitzin, won't have a din of pigul. So betuma namet le'lechayev. So just like by pigul, he said there's no din of pigul by the chatois apnimim. I would have said okay, mishum betuma namet le'lechayev. So the same din should be if you're comparing it to shlamim that chatois apnimi. If you ate a betuma, you shouldn't be chayev. Kamash Malan. That's why we had a third kares, extra word, extra kares, to tell you when it comes to tuma, chatoyis apnimim. If you ate a betuma, you're going to be chayiv, even though it's not similar to kachim shlamim, which the iker kapara, which means the spraying of the blood, was done by mizbeach hachitzin, and the chatoyis apnimim, the blood was sprayed in the heichal. So it's not the same, but he says nevertheless by tuma. The third Benichus teaches us he's going to be over on the Isa Tuma.
The blood was sprayed on the Parechis, no?
Towards the Parechis. Achas. Okay, Achas Lamaila. When he wanted to throw far, your hand went this way. Yeah, okay, but he means the spray of the blood. He doesn't have to. He means either Chitzen or Pnimi. But the Heichel, if there was no Mizbeach, but Achas Lamaila means if he wanted to, the blood was 7, right? So when you want to get the furthest one, you threw uphand. I'm sorry. No, uphand went down. I'm sorry.
Didn't go on the
you threw underhand to get it further. So that was a machlokes. There's a whole story with Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that they went. I'll say it later. The whole story, and they had a machlokes on 2 things, and he ended up going down in the Vatican, and he said he saw on the Parechis blood, and he saw that the tzitz it says on 2 lines. I'll tell you the whole story after. Let's go a little further. Said, you want to know me? Rabbi Shimon said, Mechayiv is dake shlechel, that the Yechayiv mishum eating betuma, but the eitzim, the lovena, and the ketayis, which is not the derech to eat, you're not going to be chayiv if you eat it betuma. It's not the derech to eat. Rabbi Shimon argues, Rabbi Shimon says you are. Itma, we learned Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. We learned the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And then the same machlokes was learned also between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chanina. So you take one of the Amoraim with one of the Tanoim, you make them into, or the all Amoraim, I'm not sure, but you split up the pairs, and one from each pair were together. So Hai Mahai Zuzah, V'Hai Mahai Zuzah. One from this pair and one from this pair paired up. And the same thing, the second one, and maybe with the second one, or the second one with the first one. Chad Amar Machlokes. One of them said it's machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Chachamim, whether you're going to be chayiv tuma on eating things that are not royal achila. So you can learn it 2 ways. It's either tumas basa. Tumas basa means that the chefza, the meat, it's not dafka meat, but the chefza is tamei, and tumas gufi means the person is tamei. But mamish, there's a big difference in halacha. If somebody is a tamei beguf and he eats kodesh tahir, then he's chayiv kodesh. If it's the reverse, if somebody's tahir and he eats something that's tamei, he's a love. But right now, we want to know if the machlokes on something that wasn't edible wasn't only by the chefza being tamei, or even by a person, his guf being tamei. So chad amar. Okay, So Chadam Machlekes. One said the Chacham arguing on Rab Shimon b'negeya to Tuma al Achilas Dvarim, which are not Achilas Dafke b'Tumas Basa. He says it was Dafke by the Cheftza, that the Kachim, that the Cheftza, if it's not edible, then there you're going to say he's going to be chayiv.
That's what Rab Shimon says, right? Rab Shimon holds it's chayiv?
Rab Shimon says it's chayiv. Yes, like Rabbi Yisrael Achilas Kodesh Tamei.
If you ate anything that had to shine with the korban itself.
Yeah, but now we're saying in Rab Shimon was it betumas aguf or betumas chefza, betumas abasa. But he said this mandam says about betumas aguf. But if the person was tamei and the item that he ate was tahir, so he said
The item was not kachim. You mean like it was wood or something?
It was wood, but it
something
wasn't.
That's not edible.
Huh?
No.
Yeah, something that's not edible, but the person himself was tamei. But the chefza, whatever it was, the wood or the meat, was kodesh. He says here we're talking about it was wood. It's something that's not right. It's not fit to eat. So no. Just like you had a machlekes by the cheftza, meaning by the basa or the wood itself, they had a machlekes that Reb Shimon said that it's going to be chayiv, even though it's not fit to eat. The Chachamim said that he's going to be potter because they're not mechalik, right? I'm sorry. Chacham say if it's not edible, it's potter. So the same thing is even when his guf was tamei and he ate kodesh tahir, if it was wood, it would make a difference if it's a davar that's edible or not. My time, in fact, no matter what's the reason that Chacham Achayev achilas tumas haguf, even by dvarim she'einu reuyim achila, says the Gemara, keeping the karina bay, since by the pasuk says by the achilas kodesh, va'abas hasheyigah b'chol tamei, lo ya'achel, right? And there it's referring to anything, even something that's not edible, right? Karinam bay. The pasuk says that it's v'tumase Allah, right? Which is talking about I'm sorry. The first pasuk lo ya'achel karinam bay is referring to something that's not edible that you're going to be chayav for, and right next to that pasuk it says about tumas haguf, v'hanefesh asher toichal v'tumase Allah is going on the guf. We'll have the same thing because it's right next to each other. Rav Tavyumi Masnei Hachi. Rav Tavyumi learned like we just had explained the machlekes. Okay, that Chad once said the machlekes is only by basa, not by guf. By guf, everybody holds his potter.
If he himself is coming, right?
Right, and it's something that's unedible, he's not going to get malchus. If he himself is tamei, but if the basa is tamei, meaning the wood is tamei, right, and he's tahir, and it's an unedible thing. That's where the machlekes is. Shimon says,
even though there's both a heter for both sides.
Right, but Shimon says he's going to be chayiv, and the Chacham says potter. You have a tablet right here. We'll soon go over to it. Now goes Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana Masna Hachi. Rav Kahana learns like this. They took, again, you remember there were 4 Amarayim, and they split one from the earlier Amarayim with the later Amarayim, and they made it into pairs. Chetzi.
Weren't they pals?
Yeah, they were.
Why they split?
Sefer. He says it goes on the Sefer of the Mishnah. Chadam machlekes. One says the machlekes of Shimon and the Chachamim that you don't get malchus because of achilas dvarim she'einu reuyim betumas haguf. The machlekes was by tumas haguf. Aval betumas basa divya haka loike. Now it goes the reverse. The machlekes was only by tumas haguf. By tumas habasa, everybody holds he gets malchus.
What you eat.
Right. So he says, and the other Amida says, he said, like the second mandama before, that machlekes is by side by the basar being tamei and side by the guf being tamei. If it's an unedible item that is being eaten, he's not going to be chayiv.
So everybody holds the same way.
Huh?
Everybody holds the same thing.
By which one?
But the
Before we said
One
everybody
mandama
holds the name
says.
before.
One mandama in this one. In this one says betumas hagbasa. Everybody holds a malchus, even if it's unedible. But by tumas haguf you have machlekes. If Shimon says if it's unedible, and he's tummy and he eats something unedible, he's chayiv, and the chacham says he's not going to be chayiv. And the Chadaman, the other peer, says that the same machlekes is by basa, is also by gufa tomei. Reb Shimon will say it's chayiv, and the chacham say pata.
Reb Shimon always holds chayiv. Any of these four
Yeah,
cases.
yeah,
will be
yeah.
chayiv.
Always say chayiv. Amar Rabba, Mistabik Man Dama. It's more reasonable to say that the machlekes was by both. Like the Man Dama, like the peer that says ki machlekes bazu, kach machlekes bazu. My time. Why does it make more sense? Keeping the loy karina bay, since according to Rab Shimon, by yadav shein rayu ba'achila, he says according to Rab Shimon we don't read by yadav shein rayu ba'achila the pasuk of Isa Tamed Lach Ba'Ketz VaNefesh Asher Torichal V'Tum'aseh Alav V'Nichasa HaNefesh Hahi Loy Karina Bei. So according to him, Ein Karina Bei Games HaKaseh Shemiyad Lefneikem V'Abbas Asher Yiga B'Chol Tamei Lo Ya'achel. So he says that the Devarim She'ina Ruyin La'achila, I'm saying according to the Chachamim, and according to the Chachamim say, hey, it's one thing. We know Rab Shimon's svara. Rab Shimon said before, it's including, just like by the pasuk of Basa, is including the Isur. Even by something that's not edible, by Basa, and then the pasuk right next to it is talking about Tumas Haguf, or Tumas Elav. So he says you apply also the same Isur by something that's unedible. The Chachamim say, since we don't read it, it's just like by Basa we don't include something that's unedible, and the pasuk right next to Basa is about the guf becoming tamei. So too by the pasuk right next to it, we're not going to include something that's unedible. The Chachamim say
That was the first case, no?
the Reb Shimon learns the pasuk of the first pasuk by Basa that even something that's unedible is chayev. So then automatically they by Tumas Haguf will have the same thing, bismichus, that next to each other. That's according to Reb Shimon. The Chachamim will learn that, look, the Chachamim say, since we don't include something that's edible in Ba'abasa, they learn the reverse of Reb Shimon. So if you don't include something unedible as an Isur, so you cannot include it by the pasuk right next to it, which talks about a person's guf being tamei, eating kodesh. Okay? But it says, by the Isa kodesh tamei, we said that the Abbas is coming to tell you that how could the Chacham say he's going to be potter? If the Chacham, everybody agrees the Abbas was extra, and the Abbas came to include unedible foods that you're going to be chayiv if you eat a betuma. Says Gemara, it didn't mean letuma, it meant lepaisla, to balma, just to passel it. And it was only an asmachta, it wasn't a real yitur. But la'ilam, in Emerson, it's going to be tohe. It's just a cham made rasa. Sagt the Mishnah, l'shem shishat var ma'azevach nizbach.
What, did you say the last word to me?
Yeah. Yes, we asked. Rabasa, we have a finished a pasuk. So he says that's lepaisla, it's not a yitur. It's just an asmachta. Sagt the Mishnah, l'shem shishat var ma'azevach nizbach. A person has to have in mind these 6 things by a carbon in order that it should be chal. L'shem zavach, he has to have in mind that mina, if it's l'shem oila, you shouldn't say l'shem shlamim. L'shem zevech, he has to... Now, it's a new Mishnah. I'm telling you, in order for a carbon to be good, it has to be l'shem for that name of the carbon. For a carbon, it has to be that name that you set it aside. L'shem zevech has to be for the person who you said, who the person set aside for his aveda, not for another person. L'shem Hashem has to be l'shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. L'shem Ishim, amanas that the fat should be burned on the fire. L'shem Reyach, amanas that the Reyach should go up, that the smell should go up. B'haktar l'shem Nechoyach, that you're doing what Hashem wants. So it's nachas ruach l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'achatz v'asham, and the chatz and asham are gishachten. L'shem chet. It has to be specifically for the chet that he's bringing. You can't say all of a sudden anaya chet.
What's going on? From
A chatas, it has to say for this sin. Even the person didn't have the kohen who was being marked the carbon, had zero mind, he had a blank mind. Is it going to be good? He says, perfect. Because Bezdin is happy that way. Because a kohen can make a mistake. If a plate is spare, say the wrong carbon, bite the puzzle. So Bezdin, he's doing it like out tonight Bezdin. Because the machshava of the one that does the Aveda, he establishes the carbon. If he makes one mistake, the whole carbon is no good. So therefore, it's best as all gunners of it. Yehuda said the name of Rav. Oila comes to teach us l'shem oila. Lafuki l'shem shlamim deloi. Comes to exclude, if it's l'shem shlamim, it's no good. Isha, he says l'shem shlamim. Yeah, ishim, l'shem ishim. I'm asked to burn it, and it should be burnt in the fire. Lafuki kibaba deloi. The Hebrews say kababa. Excluding if it's roasted, that's no good, because that takes away the whole smell. Reya, okay, reya, melamed that you have to do l'shem reya, that there should be a smell coming out of it. Lafuke varim shetzlon, to exclude limbs that were roasted, it's not going to be good, because the whole smell went away when you roasted it outside and then you put it on the mizbeach. Those limbs that they roasted in the chutz lamizbeach, and then they put it on the mizbeach to burn it. There's no isser. There's no isser of there's no reyach coming out of it because you already roasted it. To give a nachas ruach LaHashem that the Eibishter commanded you, and we did his serve LaHashem. L'shem means sha'amar ha'yaylam. L'shem, LaHashem means l'shem to the one who said that the world should be created, and the world was created. We'll hold it. Chatas that was slaughtered for the sake of Ayla, Psula, is puzzle, meaning because he shachted a chatos, but since he had a mind l'shem Ayla, so one kedusha is mavatal the other, and it puzzles the carbon. But if he shachted l'shem chulin, amanas, that it shouldn't be a carbon at all, shade it's kosher. My time to have. What's the reason I would have? Because it says shouldn't desecrate the holiness of the Yisrael. So we dash in kachim mechalim kachim. When he has the carbon for other carbonis, which is kachim, it could pass on another carbon which is also kachim. But the ein chulim mechalim kadashim. But when you have my chulin on this behemoth, you cannot passel the kachim that was already designated for kachim. It doesn't get removed, the kachim, through chulin. Masur Rabba asked the question, Rabbi Yosi, Av during the even if he didn't have it in his heart or mind for any of these kavanas, only he did it stam without any kavana, kosher, the carbon is kosher. Because that's what the Chacham were misakin. That l'chatchila in David's kavanah should be that with a blank kavanah, and we rely on the bezdin that it's for the sake of the carbon that the balabas designated it for, or whoever the carbon was designated, whatever it was designated for. The whole reason why the carbon is kosher in such a case because he had nothing in mind. Oh, but what's he proactive? He had a kavanah, but he specifically had a kavanah to be l'shem chulin. Puzzle, it's going to be puzzle. L'cheira, you just said l'shem chulin is kosher. Since Abai says it's not true, you don't have to be medaika that way. Dilma loyhaya klo, that if he didn't have in mind anything, then the carbon is kosher. Umaratz, and it also forgives for him. But if he had a specific kavanah l'shem chulin, then the carbon is kosher. But it's not going to forgive. Abelazar said, there's going to be a difference between l'shem chulin and mishum chulin. L'shem chulin means he knows it's a chatos, and he shechted it on manash to be chulin. Shade it's kosher. The carbon It doesn't become puzzle only if he had a kavanah l'shem a different carbon. But if mishum chulin, that means he thought that the behemoth that he shechted he never knew that it was chatas. His mind chatchila was a behemoth's chulin. Psula, it's puzzle because his whole action wasn't with a kavanah to deal with kachim at all. He had no idea that it was kachim. Therefore, the shchitas carbon is not going to be kosher only if he has specifically a kavanah. Where do we see the kedabayim inay shmol merabah? He brings the benegay to this psul shaila that they asked that Shmuel asked from Rav Huna. What was the shaila? How do you know if somebody is shechting without the kavanah to shech the carbon? So then she'll puzzle that it's going to be puzzle. From this that it says by Elis Baka v'shachat as Baka l'fnei Hashem. So it's mashma that his shchita is not royat shetahei shchita l'shem ben Baka. Only if he had him mind specifically to shecht it as a carbon. Ben habaka is a remez that the shchita has to be b'kavana to shecht as a carbon. Amalei, so Shmuel asked Rav Huna, Zuba Yedenehi, this raya from this pasuk is already known to us. Why do we need this pasuk? So he says, rather, this that he has to have, the shchita l'shem ba kamina b'kavanah l'shchit carbon, misasik is no good. This we already know. But the his shaila was, where do we know that it's going to be ma'akiv? That the tzerich of kavanah to shechtas carbon is also ma'akiv in the kashas of the shchita, meaning without that kavanah, the carbon is puzzle. From the puzzle of shechtas abaka levadei alone, we wouldn't learn that. We'd only know that you have to shech l'chatchila this way. But we wouldn't know that it's ma'akiv the kashas of the carbon b'diavad. Amalei, so Shmuel said, this we learn out from carbon shlam le'tzoinchem tizbachu, which is mashma le'daitchem zivchei, meaning that the shechita has to be knowingly with a kavanah. And since the pasuk said a second time, that's how you have to shecht it. So it comes to tell you that the miskaven is also part of the kashas of the shechita. If he's missing the kavanah, it's going to be puzzle. So this is how we know when somebody's misasik during meshchita, he doesn't even know that he's shechting. He shechts without any kavan to shech the carbon. It's possible. So we said we brought it out from the pasuk v'shachat sabachim l'fnei Hashem till the shechita he has in mind, but kavanah that it should be a shechita. So Shmuel said back to Avuna, this raya we already know from a pasuk. So here he's telling you is la'akiv. He's come to tell you that it's going to hold back the kashas of the shechita. And Ravuna said back to Shmuel, and this we learn out by Kabbalah Shlamim Tzarichem Tizbachu. It's mashma ledaitchem that the shechita has to be done with a kavanah. Without a kavanah, that it's gonna. If he doesn't have the kavanah of shechita, it's not going to be a shechita.